Good morning, and we are in chapter 30, and we're just going to get right into it. There's about 45 verses, so we're going to get through it and see how we go. I know we're in the next week, and we're going to be talking about Joseph, but Joseph isn't even born yet. We will see at the end of this Joseph being born. And when Rachel saw that she bare Jacob no children, Rachel envied her sister and said unto Jacob, Give me children, or else I die. Wow, that's really something. But being married myself, sometimes women really do feel this need to have have children, and we as fathers often want children, but for Jacob, he already had some children. But for Rachel, she had no children. And Jacob's anger was kindled against Rachel, and he said, Am I in God's stead, who hath withheld thee from the fruit of thy womb? He's basically saying, Is it my fault? You know? How can you just say that? You can't say that, you know? You've had a good life, but now you're saying that you shouldn't, that you're trying to blame me for this. And she said, Behold, my maid Bilhah, go in unto her, and she shall bear upon my knees, that I may have children by her. And this just has a little bit of a thing, be built up by her. And we've seen this already a few times, where, with Abraham, his Hagar. And in this sense, they never say concubine in this sense for Jacob. They say wife. And he gave him Bilhah, her handmaid, to wife. And Jacob went in unto her, and Bilhah conceived and bare Jacob a son. And Rachel said, God hath judged me, and hath heard my voice, and hath given me a son. Therefore called she his name Dan. And Dan, of course, means he has judged or vindicated. So it's really good in the scriptures. We can see those names in those verses. And Bilhah, Rachel's maid, conceived again and bare Jacob a second son. And Rachel said, With great wrestlings have I wrestled with my sister, and I have prevailed, and called his name Naphtali. Now, I'm just going to look here. The Hebrew is, the wrestlings of God have I wrestled with my sister. And then Naphtali itself is my wrestling. So now she's got a few children that she's named herself. Notice Rachel and Leah are the ones that have been naming these children. And it doesn't really show a lot about Bilhah and Zilpah. As in, what were their feelings? You know, they become Jacob's wives, or but it's Rachel and Leah that names them, and it sounds that they take him almost unto themselves. And when Leah saw that she had left bearing, she took Zilpah, her maid, and gave her Jacob to wife. And Zilpah, Leah's maid, bare Jacob a son. And Leah said, A troop cometh, and called his name Gad. Can you guess what Gad means? I would think troop, but it's a wordplay. Sorry, it's a wordplay. On or it says i.e. good fortune. A wordplay on the Hebrew words getud, troop, and Gad, fortune. And there is a little bit about that later on as well, but for this sense, in fact, we'll just go there since we're here. Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at last. And that's in Genesis 49 when the blessing comes. And Zilpah, Leah's maid, bare Jacob a second son, and Leah said, happy am I, for the daughters will call me blessed, and she called his name Asher. Again, I bet you can guess what Asher means. Happy or blessed. And Reuben went in the days of wheat of the harvest and found mandrakes in the field and brought them to his mother and brother Leah. And then Rachel said unto Leah, give me, I pray thee, of thy son's mandrakes. Now this is interesting. I'm not sure I want to go too deep into it, but on the right hand side again, what are mandrakes? Well, other than in Harry Potter, the things that scream, the Hebrew word translated as mandrake denotes the love fruit. The fruit had a pleasant taste and odor, which was supposed to ensure conception. The mandrake plant has flesh-colored roots that can sometimes resemble small human figures, which may have inspired superstitions that mandrakes helped with fertility. So that's what you know now. They're not just in Harry Potter. And brought them to his mother. Then Rachel said to Leah, give me, I pray thee, of thy son's mandrakes. And she said unto her, is it a small matter that thou hast taken my husband? And wouldest thou take away my son's mandrakes? And Rachel said, therefore, he shall lie with thee tonight for thy son's mandrakes. And Jacob came out of the field in the evening, and Leah went out to meet him, and said, thou must come unto me, for surely I have hired thee with my son's mandrakes. And he lay with her that night, and God hearkened unto Leah, and she conceived and bare Jacob the fifth son. It's interesting that they have this idea that mandrakes are going to make her more fertile, but then it gives the praise to God as being the person who hearkened unto Leah. And Leah said, God hath given me my hire, and because I have given my maiden to my husband, she called his name Ishkar, which is there is a recompense. And Leah conceived again and bare Jacob a sixth son. And Leah said, God hath endowed me with a good dowry. Now will my husband dwell with me. And if we look there, honor me, exalt me. So she's been trying to make him feel like she's trying to feel that she is the number one in his life, and it never quite happens exactly that way. because I have borne him 6 sons, and she called his name Zebulun, which means in Hebrew, Zephyr means exalted abode. Um, and so I think it's interesting how each of the sons has that different meanings. And afterwards she bare a daughter, called her name Dinah. And God remembered Rachel, and God hearkened unto her, and opened her womb. And she conceived and bare a son. And God and said, God hath taken away my reproach, and called his name Joseph. And Joseph relates both to the Hebrew root Yasef, to add, and Asaph, to meaning to take away. And together, the context plays upon all these meanings. And if you think about it, it says it takes away the reproach, but at the same time she got a son. Shall add to me another son. And it came to pass that Rachel had borne Joseph, and Jacob said unto Laban, Send me away, that I may go unto mine own place and my own country. So he wants to go now. He's been there long enough. He's paid the debt, and it's time for him to go. And give me my wives and my children, for whom I have served thee, and let me go, for thou knowest my service which I have done thee. So he served those 14 years. And Laban said unto him, I pray thee, if I have found favor in thine eyes, hurry, for I have learned by experience that the Lord hath blessed me for thy sake. He's thinking, hey, you know what? When you're around, everything goes better. And he said, appoint me thy wages, and I will give it. And he said unto him, Thou knowest how I have served thee, and how thy cattle was with me. It's kind of sad that they always say he and him so easily that they forget that some of us is going, oh, well, which is what? I think this example, it's easy to see which is which, but some you get it like, okay, who's speaking to who? And sometimes you just slow down and you can figure it out. Or it's not that important to the story sometimes as well. And in this case, we know Laban, and you can see Joseph's voice in the other way where he's saying, well, I serve thee, because Laban didn't serve him. For it was little which thou hast before I came, and now increased into a multitude, and the Lord hath blessed thee since my coming. And now when shall I provide for my own house also? And he said, what shall I give thee? And Jacob said, Thou shalt not give me anything. If thou wilt do this thing for me, I will again feed and keep thy flock. And I will pass through all thy flock today, removing from thence all the speckled and spotted cattle. In this sense, cattle just means goats, sheep, anything. Livestock is what we'd probably call it nowadays. And all the brown cattle among the sheep, and the spotted and speckled among the goats, and of such shall be my hire. So he's saying, you have the regular ones, the ones that are white sheep or black sheep or whatever, but I'll have the ones that are brown, and spotted and speckled. And obviously, from this text, what we're seeing is Laban probably looked out there and went, there's not too many speckled and spotted ones. So, yeah, this is a good deal. So shall my righteous answer for me in the time to come, when it shall come for my hire, therefore before thy face, every one that is not speckled and spotted among the goats and brown among the sheep, that shall be counted stolen with me. And Laban said, behold, I would it might be according to thy word. And he removed that day that the goats were ring-straked and spotted, and all the she-goats were speckled and spotted, and every one that had some white in it, and all the brown among the sheep, and gave them into the hand of his sons. And he set 3 days' journey betwixt himself and Jacob, and Jacob fed the rest of Laban's flocks. And then this is a really weird thing about the rods and things. And we're just going to read this thing just to get it. What's the purpose of the techniques that Jacob used with his herds? Laban had made an agreement that Jacob could keep all the animals in his flocks that were irregular colored coats. So, to increase his flocks, Jacob placed striped and speckled branches in front of the animals while they mated. And there was a superstition that what an animal looked at while it mated would affect the appearance of its offspring. The effectiveness of this technique is never questioned in the account, but later Jacob gives all the credit for the miracle to the Lord, just like Rachel did just earlier. And Leah. And so he just puts these branches in front of him of the animals while they're mating, and he set the rods which he piled before the flocks, and in the gutters, in the watering troughs, when the flocks came to drink, that they should conceive when they came to drink. And the flocks conceived before the rods, and brought forth cattle ring-straked and speckled and spotted. And Jacob did separate the lambs, and set the faces of the flocks towards the ring-straked, and all the brown in the flock of Laban. And he put his own flocks by themselves, and put them not in Laban's cattle. And it came to pass that whensoever the rods before the eyes of the cattle in the gutters, they might conceive among the rods. But when the cattle were feeble, he put them not in. So the feebler were Laban's, and the stronger was Jacob's. And the man increased exceedingly, and had much cattle, and maidservants, and manservants, and camels and asses. So it sounds he was very clever in what he did, but it seems that in the end he gives praise to God. And that's where we're going to leave it today, and we'll see you tomorrow.